the points other than origin for which abscissa is equal to the ordinate will lie in. We have 4 options. Option A, first quadrant only. Option B, first and second quadrants. Option C, first and third quadrants. And option D, second and fourth quadrants. You see, we have a graph paper here because whenever we are solving the questions from coordinate geometry, you will need a graph paper. The solution will be on the graph paper. At least you need it to understand and find the solution, even if you don't have to show it on the graph paper. Now, before moving towards the solution of this question, we should understand certain terms which are there, which I believe most of you do, and if you don't, you should, because we will be using all these terms on a regular basis whenever we are going to solve questions from coordinate geometry. The first term is origin. What is the origin here? Origin is the point formed by the intersection of x and y axis, which forms over here. You see, x axis and y axis are intersecting each other here, and its coordinate or the points are 0, 0. Next we have abscissa. Now what is this abscissa? Abscissa is nothing but the x-axis coordinates, which means that all the points which come from the x-axis, the values, these are known as abscissa. So if you look here, then this entire line, whatever values you take from this line, that is your abscissa. Next we have ordinate. What is ordinate? Ordinate is nothing but the y-axis coordinates, which means the values that will come from this line. This will be your ordinate. So here, this is your abscissa and this is your ordinate. This y is your ordinate and this x is your abscissa. The values, not the axis. Next we have another term, that is quadrant. You see, we have quadrant along with a number. First, second, first, third, second, fourth. What are these? The entire graph is divided into 4 sections. If you see, this is your first section, this is your another section, this is your another section, and this is your another section. Every section is a quadrant. So this is a quadrant, this is a quadrant, this is also a quadrant, and this is also a quadrant. What about the numbers? We start with this quadrant and consider this as the first quadrant. So this is your first quadrant. Now move anti-clockwise. So here we have the second quadrant, then we have the third quadrant, and then we have the fourth quadrant. Now let's get back to the question as we have understood these basic concepts. The question says that the points for which abscissa is equal to the ordinate, in which quadrant it will lie. So let's see what are these points and how can we get it. First of all, starting with the first quadrant, again we have one exception here other than origin, because this origin, this already has a coordinate 0, 0 and it is the center, so we have to exclude this. Apart from that, we have to find out the quadrants where we will have the abscissa and ordinate as equal. Starting with the first quadrant, you can see if we take one on x-axis and one on y-axis, both are equal, that will give us a point over here. Next we can have 2, 2 that will be over here, 3, 3 that will be over here, 4, 4 that will be over here. Following the same path, if we take the abscissa as P, then you can see that the ordinate on this straight line or on this path is always coming as PP. There is no other path where we can get both the values as equal in this quadrant. Now moving on to the second quadrant, we have this point as -1, 1. This point as -2, 2. This point as -3, 3. This point as -4, 4. Why? Because on x-axis we are getting the value from here, and from y-axis we are getting the value from here. So if we give a general name to these points from x and y-axis, then you can see that whenever we are taking Q as an ordinate over here, we are getting minus Q from here. That will be following this straight line, the line that is formed by joining the points that we have just taken. Moving on to the third quadrant, we have this point as -1, -1. Then we have -2, -2, -3, -3, -4, -4, and so on. So you see here we are getting this -4, 4 because we have -4 from here, and this side we are getting -4 from here. So following the same path, just as we did in other quadrants, if we generalize these points, then whenever we are taking a value from here, it is in the form of minus. Let's say if it is r, then here also we are getting it as -r. So that is in third quadrant. Now moving on to the fourth quadrant, you can see that we have -1 and 1 over here, -2, 2 over here, -3, 3 over here, -4, 4 over here, which means if we generalize here, then this 4 got its value from here, and this -4 from here. So whenever we are taking the abscissa as S, then in ordinate we are getting -S. There are no other possibilities in this case and in other quadrants as well. So now if we analyze this back, in second quadrant, whenever the ordinate is Q, abscissa is -Q. That means these are not equal. There is no coordinate in the third quadrant where we get Q is equal to Q. Whenever the ordinate is Q, abscissa is -Q. Moving on to quadrant 4, the same way, when we are taking abscissa as S, the ordinate is -S, which are again not equal, which means that whenever we take any abscissa in quadrant 4 and take the equal value, its ordinate will always be the negative of the same number. Moving on to the first quadrant, you can see whenever we are taking abscissa as P, we are getting the ordinate also as P. That means both are equal. Same way in quadrant 3, whenever we are taking abscissa as -R, the ordinate is also -R. That means both are equal. So that is what our question has asked, that the points for which abscissa is equal to the ordinate. So you can see that it lies over here, that is in quadrant 1, and here in quadrant 3. So such points will always fall either in quadrant 1 or in quadrant 3, based on which we get the answer as C, first and third quadrants only. So this is how you have to solve the questions from coordinate geometry. Do understand the origin, do understand the abscissa, do understand the ordinate, the quadrants, first, second, third, fourth, and how the coordinate values are plotted, based on which you can very easily solve any question from the coordinate geometry. Don't get scared. Just understand and memorize some of these facts related to coordinate geometry, start solving the questions, and you are done. Believe me, study mere, not anymore.